music techie people. Today we're going to look at using an EQ. So I'm in Logic, but this should apply to any parametric EQ, whatever software you're using. So what I've done is highlighted the track that I want to put EQ on. In this case it's a guitar, and what I can do is either go up to my insert buttons, click on EQ and then channel EQ, or I can simply just go to the EQ button which it has in Logic, and I just double click that and it'll open up the EQ. So this is a parametric EQ, which means that it uses certain bands to affect different frequencies. To turn these on and off in Logic, we've got these buttons here, and they correspond to these different coloured buttons and lines, and that allows me to affect different frequencies. And I can just turn those on or off depending on how many bands I want to work with. So, for a parametric EQ, it works on three basic principles. Firstly, the frequency. Whereabouts in the frequency spectrum do I want to adjust? Do I want it to be really low, which is over here on the left, going from 20 Hz, or to really, really high stuff, which is over here on the right, which is 20 kHz. And that's the basic frequency range that a human can hear. The second thing is, do I want to cut or do I want to boost the amount of frequencies? Cut meaning I drop below this 0 dB line, so I am effectively allowing less of those frequencies through, or I can boost, which means I put more of those frequencies through. Okay, and then the final thing is what's called the Q, or the bandwidth, and that's how much do I want to EQ by. Do I want to affect adjacent frequencies, which means I have a really low bandwidth and a large curve over a greater number of frequencies, or do I want a really high bandwidth so I affect a fewer frequencies, a lot sharper bandwidth, which is often called surgical EQing. On this EQ we also have another few parameters at the side. The master gain, this is the overall output after you've boosted or cut the frequencies. I've then got this thing called analyzer here, and if I just drop this down, I'll show you what that is. That allows me to give a representation of the sound in real time. So if I solo this guitar track and I click analyzer on, it'll show me the frequencies that are coming from this guitar track. Okay, so we can see there that we've got all this sort of low area rumble going up to this sort of typical punchy area and into the high mids, which is where you would find most of that electric guitar sort of characteristics. We then have this post EQ or pre EQ. The pre being the signal as it was before it went into the EQ unit. The post being the signal of the guitar after it's come out. So if I give you a quick example, here's the pre. It should just be what the guitar looks like and sounds like before anything has been affected via the EQ. Okay, and then if I go to post, this is what the frequency looks like, what the signal looks like, sorry, after I've applied my EQ settings. So I'm going to boost quite a high Q at around 1K, and what we should see there on the post setting is that the frequencies sort of jump into that area because I've boosted them, and so we hear more of them. So you can see there that those frequencies now, really tight band Q, it's boosting them. And then we've got this final setting here, which is the resolution for the analyzer. Do I want it to react quick? Do I want to show a quick representation samples, or do I want it to be quite slow? Usually you don't really need to mess with this. Slow is just fine. Okay. So just to summarize, on a parametric equalizer such as this, you've got band parameters, okay, often called band buttons, which allow you to affect and adjust certain frequencies. You then have the where you want to affect, either the lows, the mids, or the highs. And I can do either boost, which is more of the frequencies, or I can cut, which is less of. And then my final option is by how much do I want to affect more of the frequencies around that area, for example 1K, or do I want to affect less of the frequencies around that area? So I just get this really sharp sound and boost in that little area. So I hope that helps, guys. That's parametric EQ, and it should apply to any parametric EQ that you're using, no matter what software, even if it's an outboard hardware EQ unit, or it's a soft EQ, it's a plugin such as this. Hope that helps, guys.